long before the word queen was borrowed, translated, or written into foreign textbooks. The women of ancient Africa wore their crowns without apology. But this is not the story of a queen who ruled with armies. This is the story of a queen who walked alone into the realm of death, not because she was forced to, but because no one else would. Her name was Afia, and what she traded to save her people has never been forgotten. The kingdom of Akiem sat at the heart of the ancient Gold Coast, where the forest was so dense that even sunlight had to ask permission to enter. It was a kingdom of traders and priests, of drummers who could speak to the sky, of elders whose memories stretched back further than any written record dared to follow. The people of Akiem believed the world had two layers: the world of the living, bright, warm, full of noise, and beneath it, the world of the dead, ruled by Owuo, the god of death. Owuo did not hate, he did not punish, he simply took. He had always taken, and for centuries, the people of Akiem had made their peace with his taking, until the year everything changed. Queen Afia had not planned to rule. Her father, King Asante-Boafo, was the kind of man mountains would have respected. Tall, quiet, certain. He had ruled Akiem for 31 years, without losing a single battle, and without spilling blood that did not need to be spilled. But kings too must answer to time. When his body began to fail him, he called Afia to his side. She was 23. She had no husband, no war victories, no political alliances built on fear. What she had was something that could not be counted. A mind that moved like water, around every obstacle, into every crack. Her father saw it. He told her, "The drum does not need to be the biggest drum in the room to lead the rhythm. It only needs to find the beat first." Afia became queen on the morning her father died. She sat on the golden stool before his body was cold, not from ambition, but because she understood that grief and duty do not wait for each other. For 3 years, she ruled with the quiet confidence of a woman who knew exactly where the edges of her power were and refused to cross them without reason. Then the darkness came. It did not arrive with thunder or with warning. It arrived the way all great disasters arrive, quietly, in the corner of one man's eye. A farmer named Kojo noticed his crops turning before they had ripened. He pulled them from the ground and found the roots black, not rotted, black, as if they had been burned from the inside. By the next week, 3 children in the village had fallen ill. High fever, eyes that saw nothing, a stillness in their breathing that terrified their mothers. By the 4th week, the river ran dark. The priests said the earth was angry. The elders said Owuo had opened a door he was not supposed to open. The war chiefs said they should gather warriors and march, but no one could tell them where to march to. The plague had no face. It had no general. It simply spread. Within 2 months, 140 people had died. Queen Afia sat in the great hall of Akiem and listened to her advisors argue through 3 consecutive nights. One elder said, "Sacrifice 100 men. Let blood pay for blood." Afia was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "No man who dies for this kingdom will die by my order. If a life must be given, it will be mine." The room went silent. She had already decided. The oldest priest in Akiem was a woman named Abina. She was so old that children believed she had been born before the river. Afia went to her at midnight when the palace was asleep. Abina did not look surprised. She poured palm wine into a clay bowl, studied the way it moved, and said, "You want the road to Owuo?" Afia said yes. The old woman set down the bowl. "The road to Owuo is not a road, it is a forgetting. You walk it by releasing everything that ties you to the living world. Your name, your title, even your purpose. You arrive as nothing, and you must convince a god who has never been convinced of anything to release his grip on your people. What does he want in return? Afia asked. Abena looked at her for a long time. He has different appetites for different visitors. You will not know until you are standing in front of him. Afia stood. Tell me how to begin. Back to Queen Afia. Abena led Afia to the oldest silk cotton tree at the edge of the forest, the one children were forbidden to touch. She drew symbols in the earth around its roots. She burned leaves that smelled like rain and iron. She pressed her thumb to Afia's forehead and whispered the name of Owuo once, twice, 3 times. The 3rd time she said it, the air changed. Afia felt the sound disappear first, not gradually, suddenly, as if the world had inhaled and forgotten to exhale. Then the colors drained, not to darkness, to something worse, a grey that had no feeling in it at all. The trees were still there. The earth was still beneath her feet. But everything looked like the memory of a place rather than the place itself. She walked. The road revealed itself one step at a time. It went down, not in angle, but in feeling, as if each step carried more weight than the last. She saw them as she walked, shadows at the edge of her vision, hundreds of them, people moving slowly, not toward anything, simply moving. She recognized the shape of grief in how they carried themselves. Some of them turned to look at her. She did not stop. She walked until the grey opened into something vast, a space with no ceiling, no walls, no horizon. And at the center of it, seated on a throne made of stone, so old it had forgotten what stone felt like, was Owuo. He was not what the stories had made him. He was not monstrous. He was not draped in shadow. He looked like a man of indeterminate age, older than old, but not broken by it. His eyes were the color of still water, and his voice, when he spoke, felt like the moment before sleep. "You are not dead," he said. "Not yet," Afia answered. He studied her with the patience of something that has never had a reason to hurry. "You have come about the plague." "I have come about my people," she said. "The plague is simply what you're using." A long silence followed, and in that silence, something almost like curiosity moved behind his still water eyes. "I take what belongs to me. Your people belong to me. All people belong to me. Eventually." "Eventually," Afia agreed. "But not yet. Not the children. Not the farmers who still have harvests ahead of them. Not the mothers who still have work to do." "And what," said Owuo slowly, "would you give me in return?" Afia had prepared 10 answers on the walk down. Owuo did not wait for them. "Your voice," he said. The silence that followed was different from all the silences before it. A queen without a voice cannot rule in the way a queen is expected to rule. But a queen who sacrifices her voice for her people, she will be heard forever. That is the exchange I offer. Your voice, and I release the plague. Every life that remains, I return." Afia stood in the grey, endless quiet of the spirit world. She thought of the children, the blackened crops, the dark river. She thought of what it would mean to sit on that golden stool and never speak another word. Then she thought of her father's voice, which she could still hear, even now, even here. The drum does not need to be the biggest drum in the room. It only needs to find the beat first. She looked at Owuo, and she said her last words. "I accept." She woke beneath the silk cotton tree as dawn was breaking. Abena was sitting beside her, watching. Afia opened her mouth. Nothing came. Not a whisper, not even the shape of a breath. She placed her hand on Abina's arm, and the old woman nodded slowly, understanding everything. They returned to the palace in silence. By midday, the river had cleared. By evening, 3 of the sick children had broken their fevers and were eating again. By the end of the week, the last of the plague had lifted from Akan, like smoke dissolving into morning air. No one outside the palace walls knew what the queen had done. Afia never told them. She could not. She ruled for 37 more years. She issued her commands through a language she invented herself. Precise gestures, arrangements of objects, expressions that her council learned to read like sacred text. She sat in judgment. She settled disputes. She led her kingdom through 2 floods and a border war. And she won all 3 without raising her own voice once. The people of Akan did not pity her silence. They revered it. They believed her voice had not been taken. They believed it had been sent somewhere important. That somewhere, in every breeze that moved through the silk cotton tree at the edge of the forest, they were still hearing it. Queen Afia died at the age of 61. She died in the same chair where her father had died, with the same quiet certainty. The griots who carried her story forward said that when she died, Owuo did not simply take her the way he takes everyone else. He came to the silk cotton tree himself, and he waited, not because he owned her, but because she had made him curious about what she would say next. And this time, she could say anything she wanted. The story of Queen Afia was carried across the Gold Coast and beyond, not as a cautionary tale, not as a tragedy, as a testimony that power is not always loud, that sacrifice is not always the same as loss, that the greatest voices are sometimes the ones that people carry inside them long after the speaker is gone. Ancient Africa did not lack for heroes. It did not lack for warriors or builders or kings. What it never lacked, and what the world still struggles to recognize, was the kind of courage that walks quietly into the dark on behalf of someone else and speaks even in silence. If this story moved something in you, please like this video and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe to this channel so that stories like this one, ancient, powerful, and too long ignored, can finally travel as far as they deserve to go. Because in every story that survives, something ancient refuses to be lost.